What's up, guys? It's Joe again from Petty Fixes. So I see a lot of people have been interested in this monitor that I got, the LG 29UC88 29-inch Ultrawide Curved Monitor. I've been having it for a couple weeks now, and it's almost been a month since I had it. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm actually going to go into an in-depth review of the monitor, let you guys know my first impressions, how I've liked it so far, everything that I've liked and disliked about the monitor. So stick with me, guys, because this is going to be longer than the first initial impression that I got on the monitor. Just bear with me because we're going to go over everything that I did and did not like, from the packaging all the way down to the specs of the monitor. So here we go. So let's get to the reason why I even started looking for an ultra-wide monitor to begin with. When I first started looking for a new monitor, I was looking to downgrade from my two 25-inch HP 25ES monitors. It took up too much space on my desk, so I wanted either a 27-inch 1440p monitor or an ultra-wide. I found this on eBay through a website called slickdeals.com. That site has forums from deals like from anything that you could think of, and I was looking for computer deals, so since I was looking to get a different monitor, I ended up clicking the link and I ended up coming across this monitor through that Slick Deals app. The monitor deal was actually through eBay, and I saw the price for it was only $259 at the time that I was looking. So the price eventually went up $100 back to the regular price that they have on that site, which was $350, but it's originally like a $500 monitor. So when Black Friday came around, I just decided to purchase it from Amazon, which was $315. The monitor arrived in 2 days. I mean, it was pretty fast, and I was pretty excited for my new purchase. Okay, so the packaging for the LG curved monitor was pretty substantial. So when it arrived, it was very well packaged. The box itself is large, got an ample amount of styrofoam to protect the monitor from any damage, which kind of surprised me. I didn't expect that much inside the box. The monitor comes complete with the adjustable monitor stand that it sits on, the usual power cable, and it comes with an HDMI cable, but there's no DisplayPort cable to take advantage of the FreeSync capabilities when paired with the proper AMD graphics card. Taking the monitor out of the box, I immediately noticed how large it was. I didn't realize it was going to be that big. It was bigger than I expected, to be honest. It also comes with an install disc of the software for LG's dual controller application, which we'll get to that later. Okay, so assembling the monitor actually was pretty easy. A couple screws here and there to attach the curved base to the monitor's adjustable arm, and screwing the 4 screws into the back of the monitor attaching to the adjustable stand was actually pretty easy. It took about 5 minutes or so. Once together, you could really see that LG took some time to make sure this monitor wasn't just another ordinary looking monitor. The curved bottom part of the stand is actually made of metal. It has a high quality brushed metal appearance, and the arm that it attaches to itself is actually made of plastic, but it's a high quality plastic. It doesn't give off any cheapness looking to it, and it has a metal core. It's also designed in a brushed metal fashion around the back, and there's no glossy plastic to be found anywhere on the back of the actual monitor itself, unlike some of the earlier ultra-wides that LG came out with. It's a matte finish now, so fingerprints, think of the past. So around back, as far as inputs go, there's 1 display port, 2 HDMI ports, a headphone jack for headphone pass-through, and the usual power supply port. Now let's talk about the reason that anybody even buys a monitor to begin with, which is the display. Now, this is a first to me, as I've never owned a monitor that was a gaming monitor. I was curious as to how this would look on my desk, seeing as how I'll be downsizing my monitors to a single 29-inch ultra-wide. Turning on the monitor for the first time, I had it hooked up to an HDMI port, as I didn't have a DisplayPort cable to hook up to my XFX RX 480 graphics card in my gaming rig. First thing I noticed was how bright and vivid the colors were compared to my old monitors that I had, especially the two 25-inch monitors. The first monitor that I ever had was a 24-inch Lenovo, which was pretty decent, but then I decided to upgrade to 2 25-inch monitors because I just needed more workspace. This is definitely wider than a 24-inch, but it takes up a lot less space than the 2 25-inch monitors. The colors on this make the colors on my previous monitors look totally washed out, especially the 2 25-inch monitors that I had. This monitor comes with a resolution of 2560 by 1080 with a 21:9 aspect ratio, and it's an IPS panel. It's very crisp and it's very vibrant. The colors are amazing, especially the reds and the blues. That's the first thing I noticed because I usually pick a red or a blue wallpaper, so for me that's a really good thing. The display is being touted by LG as having an sRGB color gamut of over 99%. So for those people who do a lot of photo editing, this will be a very good thing, as your photos will show up color accurate, very color accurate. A lot of people on the forums complain about this being a 29-inch monitor with a resolution of 1080p, that you might see pixels at the distance from which you sit from your monitor at your computer desk. But I can assure you that I don't see any pixels at all from that distance which I sit. I sit roughly 3 feet away like the average person probably would, So my monitor is really crisp to me and doesn't do anything to my eyes. I can't see any pixels whatsoever. The screen is also a matte finish, so there's no glare to be found unless you shine a bright light directly onto it. My old monitors had a glare from hell and they were not a matte screen at all, so this is a welcome relief for me. The bezels on this monitor are not truly edge to edge, so it gives an illusion that it's an edge to edge screen when the monitor is off, but when you turn it on you can definitely see the bezels, but they aren't very substantial. Still altogether an amazing design by LG, and I can't commend them enough for doing that. Don't forget about it being curved, as the monitor has a nice subtle curve. Now it's not an aggressive curve like you'll see from a company such as Samsung, but the curve is definitely there. It adds a level of immersion that I'm not quite used to yet, but it definitely adds to the experience, and I really enjoy it so far. As far as the backlight bleed goes, there's very minimal bleed, but you only see it on a pitch black screen or when you're in a pretty dark room. Not much of a deal breaker at all. The monitor also has speakers, which is a pretty welcome surprise. I didn't even know it had speakers until I unplugged my Eclipse Pro Media 2.1 speakers, and I tried to play some music and I forgot that I plugged them in, but the music came from somewhere and I didn't know where it came from. Looked up underneath my monitor and boom, 2 speakers. They're about 7-watt speakers and they're pretty loud for monitor speakers. Of course, there's not much at the low end for the bass response, but the mids and the highs are plenty clear. I like my bass, so of course I still recommend you get a proper audio solution to plug in to give you the best sound. One gripe I do have about this monitor since I've had it so far is there is a slight wobble to the display when it's at its highest point on the adjustable stand when typing. Not much of a deal breaker, but it's sort of noticeable. For somebody who has OCD, it can be a problem, but it's not really that big of a problem to me. The stand has a pretty nice adjustable range also, going up from its lowest point about 6 to 8 inches. And it's got some sideways tilt to it also, and some back and forth tilt. Great for when you're standing and doing some work. So let's talk about productivity on this monitor. This monitor is an absolute amazing piece of tech to work on. The ultra-wide resolution gives you plenty of space to work with when it comes to productivity and placing many things on the screen at once. Windows 10, which is what I run on my computer, already has included its snap functionality, and I primarily use it when I'm multitasking. LG though, they've included an application called Dual Controller. It's actually pretty intuitive. It works by allowing you to drag programs into the sides or the corners of the screen, which then snaps it to the appropriate part of the screen. You can snap up to 4 items on the screen at once. One thing I did notice with this software is that not all software or not all applications is optimized for this program. For example, this one sort of weird thing to me is that Adobe Photoshop totally works fine in the quad screen mode where you can put 4 things on the screen at once. But Adobe Premiere, which is another Adobe product, will not scale to any of the screen modes whatsoever, not even the half screen. I use Premiere and Photoshop Elements a lot, so for me, not having that functionality built in and having it compatible with the applications that I use is kind of a downside for me. Also, when it comes to certain other applications, the scaling is kind of weird, but for the most part it usually scales pretty well. I can run Microsoft's Edge browser or Google's Chrome, the Pandora Windows 10 app, Microsoft Word, and Photoshop all on one screen, each with its own window open to its appropriate position on the screen in the corners. I personally never have this many programs open on screen, so for me, I really wouldn't use that, but the proof of concept is there and it's pretty well implemented. I definitely appreciate it. When working on a single project though, whether it's in a browser or Adobe Premiere, here's where the ultra-wide aspect of this monitor truly comes into play. There's a lot more information being shown on the screen as opposed to having a single 16:9 monitor. More of my timeline is being shown on Adobe Premiere and I like that. Not having to scroll nearly as much on my timeline is great. Also, the more information that's displayed, the less work you have to do, which is obvious. I can definitely see this being a monitor for users who do a lot of editing and productivity and need a lot of info on the screen at one time. Okay, so now let's jump into the real reason that I bought this monitor, and that's the gaming aspect. Now, I'm a gamer at heart, so when I want to play my games, I want to enjoy my games while fully being immersed in them. Again, this is a first for me when it comes to gaming monitors, so let's jump into it. This monitor uses AMD's FreeSync technology, which is similar to NVIDIA's G-Sync in that it prevents screen tearing when gaming. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, screen tearing is when the vertical or horizontal, usually horizontal, lines on the screen sort of shift and misalign when fast movements are happening on screen. This is really apparent and very noticeable in first-person shooters where there's a lot of moving while aiming. When it comes to utilizing that kind of tech, you would actually need the appropriate graphics card to take advantage of it, and also a DisplayPort cable. The frequency range of the monitor over DisplayPort using FreeSync is 40 to 75 Hz. Now, it might report that it's 48 to 75 Hz on the website or any website that you visit, but I have it on my monitor settings as 40 to 75 Hz, so I'm going to trust the monitor in this case. While not very high and not to some people's liking, the range is actually good enough to notice a definite improvement in quality while gaming. I put a few games to the test to see if the monitor really held up to its claim. Paired with my XFX RX 480 8GB graphics card, I was able to use FreeSync over DisplayPort. At 75 Hz, the monitor definitely made a difference when compared to my old monitors. The motion is definitely smoother while gaming. I usually play games like Overwatch, Rocket League, H1Z1, Sniper Elite, things of that nature, like driving games and shooting games. Frame rates never dip, and this monitor never really pushes my card like a higher resolution monitor would. So for most games, 1080p is a sweet spot. Most gamers like 1080p anyway. The colors are very bright and vibrant while gaming too, so I definitely appreciate that, and I hardly notice any ghosting, which is usually a problem for some monitors. The response time is 5 milliseconds, but don't be put off by that. 5 milliseconds or below is definitely the standard for gaming, and I'm right in that range. The motion is fluid and consistent on screen. I usually pump my games to the max, run all my games at ultra, and there's no issues whatsoever. Now when it comes to scaling, that's a whole different matter. Some games simply do not scale to the 21:9 aspect ratio of the monitor, resulting in black bars on either side of the game picture. Kind of an eyesore. Overwatch, for example, it didn't scale to the 21:9 aspect ratio when it first came out. For months, the forums were on fire about it, with Blizzard saying that it was an unfair advantage for us players with ultrawide monitors as we could see more in our field of view. Eventually they caved in and introduced the ultrawide aspect ratio to the game, and it's a much better experience because of it. The curve of the monitor definitely lends to the experience as well, as there's a level of immersion that's absolutely stunning, and the game seems to draw you in with its immersiveness and wide field of view. Overall, the gaming experience on this monitor is well above anything I've ever had, and it only gets better when you introduce higher spec monitors with higher resolutions and higher refresh rates. So in conclusion, overall this monitor has been a joy to use. I've definitely enjoyed it, and downsizing from the two 25-inch monitors that I had has definitely worked out for me. I just love the space for productivity, and it's an amazing monitor for gaming. It doesn't push your graphics card at 1080p, and the display is extra crisp and extra bright. Colors are very, very accurate, and the monitor is a nice piece of tech to look at. Now, would I recommend this monitor to someone? Absolutely. For a monitor that hovers within the $250 to $350 range, sure, you can find a monitor that has a 1 millisecond response time, maybe 1440p resolution, but you won't get the ultra wide aspect, which is really what this monitor is all about. Sure, you might find those specs, but you won't get the FreeSync or G-Sync either, and you will pay a pretty steep premium for Nvidia's options. This strikes the perfect balance between price and performance. I highly recommend this monitor for those who are all about productivity and gamers alike. If you guys like this video, drop me a like, comment with your comments down below, let me know what you thought about my video if you have any questions or anything like that. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook and subscribe to my channel.